everyone. Thanks so much for joining me for this week's episode of When I Grow Up. On today's episode, I have Dr. Jaime Cho with me. Hey, Jaime, how are you?
Hey, hi, Blair.
Thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Oh, happy to do this. This is what I love. So,
great. Yeah. For those of you that are just joining us, I've never had a veterinarian on. And this is really exciting for me because, one, I feel like correct me if I'm wrong, I don't feel like I run into a lot of Asian American veterinarians. Is that?
I would agree. My class in vet school was about 100. And out of the 100, there was an Indian, there was me. There might have been one other Asian person, but I think that was it.
Why? Okay, let's be real here. Why do you think that is?
It doesn't have maybe the same prestige. And, like growing up as Asian American, you probably know our parents always wanted us to be a doctor, a lawyer, engineer. Technically veterinarians, and they are doctors. We have letters behind our name, but you definitely don't get paid like other doctors, I'll say that. So a lot of people who go into the veterinary industry, they do it because they love animals. They love what they do.
Oh, wow. Okay, so then you do love animals.
Yes.
Have you always loved animals, or was it something that happened later in life?
As early as I can remember, I've always loved animals. But what's interesting is, it's funny because when I tell people that I'm a veterinarian, their eyes light up. They're like, oh, and probably one of those.
Because it's so cool.
It's one of those. But what's funny is also one of those jobs that could easily end up on that show, Dirty Jobs, because there's a lot of dirty things about the job. But it's just so different in all the things that you can do and will do, and just different spectrums. But a lot of when I say, "Oh, I'm a veterinarian," a lot of people respond was, "I used to want to be a veterinarian when I was a kid. I loved animals." But then most of them don't end up being veterinarians. And I was wondering what happened. So yeah, I definitely loved animals as early as I can remember. But what's interesting was I loved animals first. I didn't always want to be a vet.
Oh.
So I wasn't the typical, story of ever since I was little, I've always loved animals. I always wanted to be a vet and be a vet animal doctor. And then boom, here I am. That was not my story at all.
Oh, well, that sounds really interesting. And I feel like it's a story that we all probably need to hear. At least I do, because I'm curious to when that transition happened for you. But before I get into all those questions, Jaime, could you tell me, I can assume I have a dog, a little French bulldog that I told you about right before us recording here. But so I know what my veterinarian does, but but for people listening that don't have pets and maybe have no clue what a veterinarian does, I feel like it's different for everybody too. So could you tell me a little bit more about what you do and your day-to-day?
Oh man, that's a loaded question.
Okay, I want to hear it all, so don't leave anything out, please.
So first, let me kind of clarify. When you're a veterinarian and you go to vet school, you can choose to practice so many different types of veterinary medicine. So I am licensed to do treat any animal. Like our board exam asks questions about pigs, hamsters, snakes, dogs, cats, horses, cows. It's just the gamut, right? So I'm licensed to practice medicine on any animal, any species, but most people will focus on certain species and they stick to that. So I have a lot of people ask me once they find out I'm a veterinarian, what's the coolest animal you've ever worked on? I'm like, dog. Hey, I have done some stuff on horses and, I've stuck my arm in a cow's butt.
Oh man. Oh my gosh.
But at the end of the day, when you go to vet school, you actually pick an emphasis. And I knew I wanted to stick to small animals, like companion animals, which is primarily going to be dogs and cats.
I see.
I think it would be really unwise of me to be I'm going to try to fix horses, even though I'm licensed, because I don't have enough technical experience. So, and that's what's interesting and cool. And we brag about this in vet school compared to human doctors is we have to know the body system of every single species. Horses, cows,
Oh.
pigs, dogs, cats. A lot of them are very different. They medicine wise, they're very different. They're treated differently, and we have to know all of that going through vet schools. And vet school is 4 years, just like med school. So
Hmm.
it's a pretty rigorous thing.
Yeah, so I mean, sorry to interrupt you. I just, as you're talking, something came to my mind. I have always wondered, like, so, my vet, I see a lot of dogs and cats, but like, if I had a snake and something were to happen to him, like, do I bring them to the normal vet? Or,
So I'll answer that with a question, or I'll
okay,
answer that with a story.
okay,
Okay.
okay.
So I don't really do any other animals. One day I was working and someone brought in a turtle. And they were
Okay.
like, so we have a pond near our neighborhood and we saw this turtle and it was a fish hook stuck in its mouth and we didn't know what to do. So we just grabbed it. Can you help us? And I looked at the turtle and I looked at the lady. I go, I don't know. I've never done this before, but sure, let me give it a try. And
Yeah.
we went to the back and we just put on gloves and we're like trying to finagle the fish hook out. And me and the assistants, we're all like debating, like, how should we do this? Like, I don't know. We're trying to figure out what tools to use. And we're like trial and error. And then we finally get it out. And then we bring the turtle back to the lady. And she's like, how much is that going to be? I was like, there's no charge for that. We'll call that a learning opportunity.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. That is pretty much the extent of like what I've done.
Okay, okay.
Sometimes if someone were to call or bring something in, I just say, I'm sorry, but I don't really work on animals besides dogs and cats. But I can refer you to a colleague that I know is great with hamsters, guinea pigs, snakes, and things like that. So
Okay,
there are
okay.
certain veterinarians in the Metro Atlanta area that like are known to do wildlife or like small pocket animals and things like that.
I
So
see.
they kind
Okay.
of build that reputation. I do not have that reputation.
Okay, okay, okay. So there are like doctors that do that as vets, like specifically.
Yeah, just because they just are they care, they know more about it, they have more experience in it, they care about it. It's just
Right,
something
right, right.
they enjoy. What's interesting though, and even me without like knowing too much about little pocket animals, is probably the number one issue with a lot of those type of animals, like your rabbits and birds, is husbandry issues. 99% of the time it's husbandry. It's diet, nutrition, their environment. Those are the
Right.
issues that cause a lot of issues.
I see. I
Um,
see. Okay.
so a lot of times it's just educating owners, like,
Right, because they don't
this is how you
know.
need to
They
feed your bunny.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Oh my gosh, that's pretty funny. So okay, so going kind of going off of what you said, so a lot of your day today is seeing dogs and kitties.
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Um so like what are your hours like?
So what's really interesting is right now I do something really unique in the veterinary world is I'm a relief veterinarian. So people don't recognize that word a lot, but it's basically a floater. So people know this in other medical industries like pharmacists, they float. If you've ever gone to optometrists, there are some floaters that float to different optometry vision places. So I am basically self-employed. I basically have clinics who hire me to fill in for them.
Mm,
It could be anything from they have someone on maternity leave, so they need someone to fill in. They have a doctor that is going to a conference or wants to go on vacation and needs someone to fill in for a week. Or they're just so busy, they just need a little bit extra coverage, but they don't want to hire part-time or full-time veterinarian because they're not that
mm,
busy. Or they lost the doctor who quit or transitioned out, and they're looking for a replacement, and in the meantime they're needing a relief veterinarian to fill in.
I see.
So
Okay.
I've worked for probably over 20 different clinics in the past 2 years, and I knew that work-life balance was important for me, so I chose really carefully like what I was willing to do. So I choose
Mm,
to only work 4 days a week. I don't work any weekends, and that's just by choice. If so, there are many clinics that would love to have me work Saturdays and Sundays, and they could have me work long shifts. Typically, most shifts are somewhere in the 8 to 6 kind of range, Monday through Friday. I don't like to work more than I think 9 hour shifts, so I usually work at 8 to 5 or 9 to 6.
okay.
Right, because I have young kids, I usually were like, hey, I really only want to work till 5. And they're like, okay, because they're kind of desperate. So my day to day looks really cool right now and interesting because every day of the week I'm going to a different clinic.
Oh, wow.
And so I've just come to love what I do because I get to meet people that I've never would have met otherwise.
Mm.
I get to work in different cities. I work in 4 different cities a week. And it's crazy because demographically it's different types of clientele. So everything's just so different. And I just love the staff I get to meet. And um, so the day to day looks a little different. Some clinics that I do really for, they like me to do more surgery, so I'll do more surgery. Other clinics, they only want me to do appointments, so I only do appointments. So it's kind of like a hodgepodge of different things.
Mm.
Like today, I did a 3 hour surgery.
Oh
you
my
know,
gosh. What kind of surgery was it?
it's a dog that had a huge like lump the size of my head, like not even kidding,
Yeah,
on the
like
side of.
externally?
Yes, like you could see it looked like a basketball attached to its
Oh
side of its
no.
its body, and I thought it would be like I think I'm a little too confident sometimes. Like, oh, this will only take me an hour.
Right.
I go in there and everything's bleeding, and I'm like, oh my
Oh
gosh, and this thing is
no.
really heavy. I'm trying to hold it. So, um, yeah, but that was fun, but it was exhausting. So that could be one typical day, but then another day, I just see puppies and kittens all day long, and I'm like, this is awesome. Like
Yeah.
puppies and kittens and puppies. And then another day, I just get sick pet, sick pet, sick pet, you
Oh
know?
no, yeah.
So I think what makes my job really fun and really just, it never gets boring is because every day is different. And as a veterinarian, I can be basically a pharmacist, a radiologist, a surgeon, an oncologist, a dentist, um, a dermatologist, a behaviorist. I mean, the list goes on. Whatever I feel comfortable doing and I enjoy and I'm passionate about, I get to do more of. And so that's why my job is never really boring because I get to do all those things. I'm never limited to one specific thing all the time.
Yeah, that's insane. So are all vets like can they do surgery or is that something that's specialized too?
So the kind of, and this, I'll kind of talk about a little bit the schooling a little bit. So just like med school, you kind of go to 4 years of vet school. It's kind of your typical, and that's after you have a bachelor's degree. So you get your normal college degree, and then you do 4 additional years of vet school. When you graduate, you can just practice general medicine, which is what I did. That means you graduate, you pass your board exam, you get your license, and you start practicing medicine.
Mm.
You can also go the route of specialty, just like in human medicine, you see an OBGYN, they are board certified in obstetrics and gynecology, right?
Mm.
You see an orthopedic surgeon, because you tear your ACL, he or she's going to be board certified in orthopedics.
Mm.
So on the veterinary side, after after you graduate vet school, you can choose to do an internship and do residency. And the purpose of that typically is to get a board certification in a
Okay.
specialty.
Okay.
So, and it's, but what's nice is in the veterinary world, you can just graduate and just start practicing. Whereas in med school, you typically you have to do internship. Like you have no option. You have to do internship and residency. Um, but
I
we
see.
have the option of doing specialties. So there are veterinarians that I refer to. Let's say I have like an eye case of a dog that's just not healing. It's really difficult. And it's just gotten really complicated. And I say, I recommend referring you to ophthalmologists. I'm going to refer you to one of my colleagues. They only see eye like appointments. That's their sole thing. That's their specialty. So they specialize in certain things. But then even for me, I have I have the freedom to do as much and as little as I want. So some veterinarians do not feel comfortable doing surgery, so they don't do any surgery,
I see.
and they just
Okay.
don't do it. They just don't recommend it. I'm sorry, I don't do surgery. Some veterinarians really don't like doing dentistry and they don't like doing extractions, teeth extractions. So they recommend them to someone else. I tend to lean towards really enjoying surgery. So I'm like, hey, yeah, I'll do it.
Yeah.
Seriously, like I just will do it because like it's just something that's like my strong suit, I guess. Um, and here's another funny story about that. So most general practitioners who graduate vet school don't have enough experience to do orthopedics. You just don't
Okay.
learn that in vet school.
I
And
see.
so the only way you're really going to start doing orthopedic surgery is if you have a mentor that mentors you and teaches you. So you could do orthopedic surgery without a board certification. And some, I guess, clients will prefer that because it's cheaper. It's like, I get the orthopedic surgery, but I get to save money.
I see. Okay.
Or you could practice orthopedic surgery by going to the internship residency and then become board certified, and then you practice as a specialist.
I see. Okay. Okay.
So, one of my coworkers years ago found this kitty at like a Wendy's parking lot. I feel like this is a story of every cat. They just found them,
Yeah.
and he didn't know what he was going to do with it. He couldn't keep it, but he was just keeping it in his dorm room. And then one day he comes back to his dorm room, and the kitty is just holding up its leg, and he had no idea what happened. So he brings the dog to our clinic. We X-ray the kitty's leg, and it's completely broken, like right at the arm. I mean, he's a college student. He's a college student. He couldn't keep it. He couldn't afford it. His parents were going to pay for it, and he was like, "What do we do?" And I'm like, So, so we were like, "Well, why don't I just try to fix it? I've never fixed a fracture, but I was like, this cat's not owned. It doesn't have a home. It's like, but we can't do nothing, right?" So I was like, well, someone's got to fix it. And so I just said, okay, well, let me just teach myself. So I, read a couple books.
Are you serious right
I
now?
literally went to surgery, and I put some wires in, I put a pin down, and then I put a cast in, and then I wrapped the arm with the cast, and the cat is completely normal to this day. He healed,
Oh
and
my
he's now
gosh,
the
that's
hospital cat.
crazy. Okay,
So,
so Jamie, I think that's insane that you would even do that. But but
well, not all veterinarians would do that. Some veterinarians would be like, no.
yeah.
It's like, you can take that to a different surgeon, but I won't do it.
Okay, so I have like kind of I don't know if this is an appropriate question, but I don't know if it's an ethical question, but like okay, like this cat is not a human, right? So like you have some flexibility, I feel, right? Like to take that chance,
Yeah.
right? Okay, so like um I don't know really what I'm asking you
I
other
think you
than
know what you're talking about.
okay.
So this is what I'll say is the only reason why I felt comfortable doing that to the kitty was because the alternative would have been taken it to a shelter and it probably would have been euthanized. It would have been that or blast on social media and find someone to adopt this cat and then pay for the surgery. So it
Mm,
was really the only feasible alternative. I guess another alternative that would be include surgery would be to amputate the leg. But we were like, if we can fix the leg, why don't we just fix it instead of amputating it? And amputation is a lot easier surgery.
right.
Most surgeons, veterinarians would probably do amputations. So in our minds, we were like, well, if it doesn't heal and the cat doesn't walk on the leg after the fracture repair, then we'll just amputate the leg. And so what I'll say is if this was an owned cat,
Uh-huh.
I would not have done this. I
Right.
would have been like,
Okay.
I
Right,
would have
right,
said,
right.
hey, I recommend this cat needs surgery. It needs to go to a surgeon. Now, what I'll say is, and this is where you're talking about kind of the ethical and like, well, where's the line?
Uh-huh.
I'm very honest. I'm very transparent. So sometimes finances is the biggest reason why an owner decides one way or another. And so then what I tell people is, this is the best thing you can do. You should take it to an orthopedic surgeon and they will fix the surgery, but it's going to probably cost you $2,000-3,000. Or I could do the surgery. It'll cost you $1,000, but I've never done the surgery before. Like I'm very honest. No. And this is an example for this. Or what I'll say is this. I only do surgeries personally that I only offer surgeries personally that I know have pretty low complication
Mm,
rate and I know
mm,
that I'm capable of doing. So there's certain
mm.
surgeries I would never even dare touch. Like I would never do open heart surgery on a dog, right?
Right, right.
So, and this happens often, like dogs will tear their ACL or they need some kind of surgery where I've not done a lot of them, but so I always give them the option. This is where I give them like kind of a spectrum is like, so I recommend you go to an orthopedist. It's going to cost this much money. I could do it, but I don't have a lot of experience, but I have scrubbed in on about 20 of these surgeries. So I feel pretty confident. So these are your options. Um, but then I always give them a kind of like you can go this route. If money was an issue, I would recommend the orthopedic surgeon. But I also would not be recommending it for me to do if I felt like it was a high complication rate.
No, sure, of course, of
Typically, is a
course.
low complication rate. So
Yeah.
I don't do facial surgeries. I won't do neck surgeries because there's things like that. So there's certain surgeries I won't do, but there's a lot of surgeries I will do. you
No,
know?
so like what everything you're saying actually like really like hits home a little bit for me because my dog I think it's been like 7 or 8 years now. But anyways, it's a long story, but basically she was only 2 or 3 years old. She got a herniated disc and was
Mm.
completely paralyzed from the waist down.
Oh,
And
was she your
then
French bulldog?
my French bulldog, yes.
Oh my
Okay, it's
God.
like a miracle. It's a miracle. You're gonna think it's crazy, right? So um, like I was freaking at 4 in the morning. She was like panting heavily because she was in a lot of pain. So I took her to the emergency room, which I think in hindsight, I'm not, I mean, it was the only thing I knew what to do at 4 in the morning. And, right off the bat, it was like, cause, it was clear that she could not walk. Like, and it had only
Mm.
been a couple hours, but they either they either said I have to pay for a $5,000 surgery for her or euthanize her, right? And I was like, I think this is really fast. Like I think I need a second opinion. Like this is and as I was sharing with you before, like honestly, if I had children or something, I don't know what I would have done, but my situation at the time was I love my dog and I like she is like my daughter at the moment and I don't know what to do, right? And so like and I don't have $5,000 to
So
spend
what
on
did you
my
do?
dog, right? And so so and I was like, is it this ER? Like, did I make the wrong choice? Like, a lot of like things were going through my head and I just was falling apart, right? Cuz like, oh my gosh, they're telling me to kill my dog. And so and she's only 3, like 2 or 3 at the time. And so he made a suggestion. He said I can just give her a pain
Yeah,
patch,
steroids.
a prednisone patch. I don't know what it was, but and then just kind of wait it out, right? And I'm like, well, yeah, like I'm not gonna euthanize my dog, and I don't have $5,000 right now. So I brought her home. This all happened very quickly within 7 days, right?
Mm.
But anyways, trying to like speed up the story so it doesn't drag on too much. But I in that week, in that 7 days, I got several different I went to my vet who referred me to a neurosurgeon or
Mhm.
something, a
Right.
neurologist, and then they were like, hey, like so the best like I mean it was clear they were like if she can't go to the bathroom by herself like this it's not looking good and I was like literally Jamie like holding her back legs so that she could go to the
Wow.
bathroom and I was like I don't
Really
know what
cool.
I'm gonna do. I can't take care of this dog like and so she was just I just crated her and I just like watched her make sure she was comfortable and the neurologist said hey so like if you go to UGA they can do the surgery for like 3,000. And I was like, oh my God. I mean, that's still a lot of money for me. Like, I can't do that. And so they're telling me she like x-rays were like two herniated discs or
Mhm.
something. I don't even know what she did, honestly. Like, I have no clue how it
He was
happened.
probably born with it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, is that what it
Mhm.
is?
Yeah.
Okay, well, okay, the story is good, gets better, but so my my coworker at the time, she actually like um started a nonprofit, like dog nonprofit, right? So yeah,
Really?
yeah, so it was crazy, and she like came into a lot of money from inheritance that year, right? So like a lot of money. And I was like telling her about my dog. I wasn't expecting anything. I had no I was just sharing cuz I felt like she cared. Like she genuinely cared cuz she likes dogs, right? And so um I told her and then she was like, "Hey, like go to UGA and I'll pay for the surgery." And I was like, okay. Like, so at the time, I was like praying and interceding on behalf of my dog. I was like, this must be God, right? So I go to UGA, Jamie, and then they evaluate her. And then they're saying the same thing. Everyone's saying the same thing. We want to keep her for observation. I'm like, okay, right? And so they asked me, and my boyfriend at the time, who's now my husband, to wait in the lobby. So we're waiting and then they come out like 30 minutes later. He's like, "Hey, like um you guys should go get something to eat and come back because we just want to keep an eye on her. And I was like, okay. And then so we go get something to eat and come back. And then a nurse comes out and says, so I know this is crazy, but Lola is walking. And I'm
Wait,
like,
what?
what? Yeah, yeah,
I've never seen that before. I did not expect you to say that.
yes. And so she she said Lola's walking, and I'm like, they're like, it's not pretty. It's not pretty, but I think what we suggest is you keep her here over the weekend. Let me observe her, and if she needs the surgery, like while she's here, at least she'll be here and we can just do it right away. And I was like, okay. So, that was a Friday, and I went and picked her up on Monday, and my dog was running towards me, completely healed.
That, that does not happen. Like that really
I'm
doesn't.
telling you, she's a miracle dog.
Because like that's like one of the worst cases of a herniated disc, and usually your only option is surgery, and usually you have to do it in 24 hours.
I know it's crazy.
So
It was
um,
crazy.
it's funny because I feel like this podcast, I know the purpose of this was to be like people who may consider like going to the veterinary, what does it entail and what's it like? But I honestly, there's a lot of like, I just like things you should know, like the true story behind veterinary medicine, and
Yeah.
like kind of like the untold stories of the,
Yes,
of the
yes.
ER and the vet, because there's a lot of things, just dirty little secrets and just things I think generally in the medical world and veterinary world that people don't know that I think it's important to know.
Mm.
And then just things like I wish that people knew, like
Like what?
like your story that you said. The thing that whenever I see someone bringing a puppy, one of the first things to talk about, and I just preface is get pet insurance.
Yes,
Like it's just I have put pets down because they got diagnosed with a condition that they couldn't afford treatment, like diabetes. Diabetes is completely manageable with with insulin, but couldn't afford it.
Mm.
Or a dog that, you know, again, they couldn't afford treatment, so they put the pet down. Now, I don't judge them for that at all, because I understand, like, you know, when it comes to money in our family, like you have to come first over your pet.
Mm.
But but it makes me sad, because I'm in the business of helping pets, and
Yeah.
to know that pets are put down or given away because they can't afford them. And so pet insurance, it's just one of those things where I've had so many clients go, is it too late to get pet insurance? And I'm like, yes, because now it is a pre-existing cause, and they won't, a pre-existing condition, and they won't pay for it. And so
Mm.
get pet insurance when your pets are young and healthy. They have no pre-existing conditions. It's really affordable. And imagine your dog could easily live 15 plus years. Do you really think you can go the entire 15 years without some crazy thing happening? Like, diarrhea, even just a diarrhea visit could easily be a couple $100. A surgery for a fracture or ACL tear, that's a couple thousand minimum. I
Mm.
mean, the list goes on. And so for some reason in the US, it's actually very like underutilized, but other countries like in Europe, pet insurance is like very, very prevalent.
Oh, really?
It's very free. I would think it's very freeing for a pet owner when they have pet insurance, because the burden of the finances if something happens, it's very scary because, imagine just going to the vet office and saying, you got to pay $3,000 out of pocket, or you got to put your pet down. Like that's just, I couldn't even fathom having to process that.
No, I
Right.
was in shambles. I was completely destroyed. I was like, this is crazy. And like everything you just said too, I was like going through scenarios in my head. Like, okay, is there somebody that can adopt her and help? Like, is there like a committee? I don't know, like a community of people that can help me? Like, I had no idea like what to do, right? And it was crazy.
Yeah. And I would say it's probably one of the parts of the veterinary world, the industry that I guess I don't love, or probably people in general and veterinarians don't love, is the money aspect. It's the
Yeah.
stress of it. It's having to talk about it. Because if you think about any human um, medical person, a pharmacist, a dentist, like a MD, they don't talk about any kind of cost. They just
Mm.
go and they do the treatments, and then you run it through insurance. For us, everyone's usually paying out of pocket. Most people don't have pet insurance, and so it's very much how much is it going to cost, and then like trying to figure things out and working out payment plans maybe, or having to change what I want to do because this is what they can afford. Like I've had people come in and say, "Hey, I have $100. That's all I have. So can you fix my dog?" And I'm like, "No, I can't. I'm sorry. I don't know what," and then try to be creative, So I think it's the burden that I carry to try and help people because I feel bad. And, like someone brought in their cat ended up having a fracture and they couldn't afford surgery. So they said, we just got to put the cat down.
Oh,
And the cat was so sweet. But I was kind of like, man, well, maybe we can just make it into a hospital cat. And I was just kind of joking, but not really being serious. And she's like, well, honestly, she's really sweet. So, I mean, do you think you could like see if so you could find the cat at home? And I said, give us 48 hours. And then we found the cat at home.
oh
And we found out,
wow.
yeah. So, and they were willing to pay for the surgery.
Oh wow.
That was a happy ending.
Yeah.
There are some non-happy endings that were the same scenario, but it is sad because that's why our industry we tend to get a lot of we call it compassion fatigue.
Mm.
It's why veterinarians are one of the highest suicide rates.
Really?
So
I did
um,
not know that.
yeah, it's hard to explain, but you should look that up. Compassion fatigue is definitely a big thing, and I think it happens in a lot of medical industries,
Mm.
definitely. But we just get very fatigued, and then just talking, and then when people kind of might accuse us of being greedy, like you don't want to fix my pet, you're too greedy. All you care about is money, but they don't realize like we're still a business and like we have staff, we have overhead, we have a building, um, and I'm not even an owner, so I can't imagine that burden.
Mm. Mm.
So there are some kind of tough things about the veterinary world, but for me personally, I would say that I have done a really good job compartmentalizing. I think that's really key, and setting boundaries.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so I still would recommend this job for people that want to become a veterinarian. Like, I wouldn't say run, run,
No, no.
but I would definitely be realistic about certain things, and
Mhm.
I think
Mhm.
the industry is also changing. It
Yeah.
used to be mainly men, and they would work crazy hours, 80 hours a week, weekends, nights, holidays, but it's changing. A lot more veterinarians are women, and a lot of women are becoming moms and they want work-life balance. They value that more, and so they're not willing to work late nights, weekends, holidays. So I work at one of the clinics I float to that's open 8:30 to 5:30. They close 12:30, 1:30 for lunch. They don't see any appointments for that 1 hour. They literally lock the doors, you know, they don't do any boarding. And so it's just, and they're closed for holidays. And so I think there is a shift that veterinarians say, well, I'm not willing to do that. And so I think that's what's key is fighting for what you want.
Mm.
Um, and because a lot of people I think as veterinarians just push themselves just to exhaustion. And it makes me sad because I've just learned I need to set boundaries because
Yeah.
otherwise I'm a better veterinarian because of it, because I get to go home and be with my family and have dinner with my family.
Sure, yeah.
um, so yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
it's
I feel
breaking
like
apart
that's
sometimes.
definitely important in your industry, but really in any industry, I feel like, or job, setting healthy boundaries is so important. And I can't imagine, like, that's interesting that you say that because you're right. Like in human, like medical situations, if it's serious, you don't really ask, you just do it, but then with the pet, it's like, unfortunately, it's like the secondary thing that they're like, yeah, how much does it cost? And that always is a question. I can imagine that's really exhausting for the person trying to treat and help you. Like they're just trying to help, and the numbers are always in the way. I feel like, but
Yeah,
Jamie, just
I
to
don't
kind of
know.
shift our conversation a little bit, can we go back to a little bit of how and why you decided to become a veterinarian?
Well, I would say my story is a little unusual because I wouldn't say I fit that picture of I always wanted to be a veterinarian. I always loved animals. I mean, I've always loved animals. Um, so people would always ask me actually when I was little, oh, do you want to become a veterinarian? Because I loved animals. And I would go, why would you think that? No. And it was weird because I was like so angry. And like I was almost saying I didn't want to become a vet just to be defiant. It was really weird.
Mm.
I just remember people always assuming I would want to be a vet, but I didn't want to. So I remember being very adamant, knowing when I graduated high school and I was going to UGA for college, I told myself I'm not going to go to vet school. Like I'm not becoming a vet. But I still loved animals, and I knew I wanted to work in the animal industry. I
Okay.
actually, my original job that I thought I wanted was basically nursing like wild animals back to health. Like,
Oh,
yeah,
interesting.
that's kind of, I was like, that's the route I want to go, but I didn't want to be a veterinarian. It was like rehabilitate, wild animals and get them all better and then send them back to the wild kind of thing.
Oh, wow.
It was actually orientation of college before I started freshman year is when I changed my major and decided to become a vet. And it's really
Why?
strange because I don't know, maybe it was a God thing and he just really nudged me, but I was in, how in the university there's different colleges. So because I was still doing some type of animal related major, a lot of other students that was in my college were pre-vet. So they were intending to go to vet school. Now I wasn't. So because there were so many students that wanted to go to vet school, there was someone that would sit and talk to everyone about what vet school entails. So I'm sitting there like, you know, like this isn't for me, but I'm in the college, so I have to listen. And they're just saying it's really tough. It's really competitive. Not everyone can do it. Da, 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 da. And it was weird because like slowly I was like, huh, this is kind of interesting. And I don't know if it was, I was like, I'm going to prove to myself and to everyone that I can do it. Are you saying that I can't do it because it's too hard? No, it's like, I can do it. And something like it was like a light switch.
Mm.
And I literally that day, I changed my major and I never looked back. And I said, I'm going to vet school.
That's
And
crazy.
then, and
Maybe
then,
okay, so
vet
like
school.
maybe when you were younger, you felt like you didn't want to be like boxed in. And then like or something. I don't know. Wait, so I'm curious though, like to what extent like people are asking you if you want to be a vet. Like how much did you visibly love animals? Like I like people are asking you that.
That's a good question. Yeah, the thing is, I feel like who doesn't love animals? I mean,
There are
some
people that
people,
don't like
yeah, I
animals.
guess you're right. Yeah, I mean, who doesn't love puppies though, right?
That's true.
But
That's
I was
true.
fascinated with, I mean, everything I watched was animal documentaries. And I
Oh.
literally, like, we had a squirrel trap in our attic in my parents' house when I was little because they would crawl into our attic. And so I figured I got a cage, I put peanut butter in it, and I trapped the squirrel so that we could get it out of the house. But before we got out of the house, I decided to look at it and play with it. Like,
Oh
like
my
or be
gosh.
outside, like looking at spiders. And I just was fascinated with all
Oh
creatures and animals. So
man.
I think people in my life, like my family,
Yeah.
noticed that. And that's like, you like animals a lot more than one person.
Normal person. That's so
Yes.
funny. Okay, that's really cool. So, veterinary school, was it everything that they had said at orientation? Was it competitive? Was it tough? Like,
So that's a great question. So I think the hard part is the getting in part.
mm,
So, and I think part of the reason why it's really competitive is just strictly a supply and demand, maybe. So if you think of veterinary schools, there's only like 26, 27, 28 accredited veterinary schools in the United States.
oh, I did
That's
not know
it.
that. Okay.
It's not even in every state. So, and I mean, let's say every class of those 28 schools accepts 100 students. That's it.
Right.
That's only
Right. Yeah.
2,800 students every year that get accepted into vet school. So I think that's a part of it is the competitiveness. And also keep in mind, I've only been talking about small animal medicine. That's talking about dogs and cats and that. Then
Mm.
you have people who do research medicine. I mean, you have people who work probably for the FDA, um, our food, like equine medicine. There's so many aspects of veterinary medicine that's used in different fields. That's just not about pet owners. So
Mhm.
um, there's a lot of research type things. Pathologists, a pathologist, you can be a veterinary pathologist. All you do is look under a microscope or do necropsies all day, which are like basically pet autopsies.
Oh
So it's very,
gosh.
if you think of all the different medical students and where they could go, it's the same thing with veterinarians. And
Oh,
people are shocked. They're like,
interesting.
what? They have oncologists? Like, oh yeah, they have veterinary cancer doctors that do chemo, radiation, and they do all of that.
That's
They have
crazy.
radiologists that do x-rays, ultrasound, MRI, CT scans. Like that's their expertise. So
Mm.
um, sorry, I'm rambling and I forgot where I was going with that. So yeah, what was the question?
I think oh man, I don't remember either actually, because I was so into your story. But I was just asking you if it was actually competitive, is what it is.
Yes,
Was
yes, that's what it
the
was.
school itself, was
So,
it competitive?
so there's a lot of people that want to go to vet school, but not all of them want to be dog and cat vets. So out of, let's
Mm.
say if there's 2,800 that get accepted in a year, 3,000. only a portion want to be dog cat vets. Then some are like equine vets, so horse vets. So think about those horses that the race horses, the
Yes.
Kentucky Derby. They are veterinarians for horses. What about think about all the cows, all the beef
Right,
that we
right,
eat
yes.
in the US. Someone has to make sure those cows, those, the all the dairy, all the milk that we consume, those come from live animals, and there are veterinarians behind those taking care of them. The zoos, there's a veterinarian at the Georgia Aquarium. There's veterinarians at zoos that make sure those animals are taken care of and safe. So that's why if you imagine the supply, the demand, the amount of people that want to go to vet school, but they only hire and they only accept so many. So I think that's where it can be really, really difficult,
I
more
see.
difficult
Okay.
than medical school.
Okay.
Now, once you get in, one thing that, and at least I experienced this at UGA, I can't speak on behalf of all the vet schools, is once you get in, they want you to succeed. And that's what I love
Mm.
about my class. I also love my school. Whereas I've heard like law students, like they do everything they can to like get you to fail.
Sure.
But they really want to help you and they want you to succeed. They want you to graduate. And so they do everything they can to really help you.
Mm.
So, but again, it is also rigorous and challenging, because you have to be good academically and like intelligent wise, right? But you also be able to do technical skills.
Mm.
Uh, and then you're doing rotation. So there's a lot of different skills that you have to be able to do. And
Mm.
there were some classmates that dropped out. It can be tough, but you know, I think it's totally worth it. And I don't know if it's necessarily any much harder than any other professional school, right? Law
Right.
school, med school, things like that. It's really the getting in aspect. But
So
when I
is
was,
there a I'm sorry, is there a like I know that in order to go to medical school, you have to take your is it your MCAT or something? Is there something
yes.
similar to that
So
as you go
I
into
think every
veterinary
veterinary
school?
school is different. They have different
Okay.
requirements or prerequisites. So when I applied to UGA did not do in-person interviews, whereas a lot of vet schools do. They required the GRE and then the GRE biology. Now I've heard that they don't even require
Oh,
the GRE biology. So
okay.
there are certain requirements. I know, like I think UC Davis vet school, they require like statistics. So you have to have taken statistics, but UGA didn't require statistics. So there are different requirements, and that's why there's no such thing as a pre-vet major. You're
Mm,
just, my major was like biological sciences,
I
but
see.
it's just picking some kind of major, but making sure that you have all the prerequisites that you need to get into vet school. Just like med school, there's no such thing as pre-med. It's just I was a biology major and then I went to med school, right? So that's kind of what it looks like going into vet school.
Okay,
Uh,
okay. Wow. Man, so it just sounds so crazy. I'm so sorry for my ignorance and all of this, but um like veterinary school is med school. Like it's just like it's comparable, right? Like it's the
Absolutely,
same. It
yes,
almost sounds more difficult in some sense because you're learning about, like you mentioned earlier, like so many different types of animals and how they're all so different.
yes. We like anatomy. Like the anatomy of a dog and cat is different from a horse and different from a cow. Like cows don't have
Crazy.
stomachs. They're
So
called
weird.
ruminants. Like it's, weird stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so
Like
weird.
horses, they can't vomit.
Huh?
They, horses do not have the capability to vomit,
Really?
which is very dangerous sometimes because if they can blow, and that can be very dangerous and life threatening.
So
So
like what if they choke? Then they die? Like meaning like
horses,
if they don't have a gag reflex? Is that what
um,
or
man, I can't remember. It was
sorry,
over
sorry.
8 years ago, but
I'm like
it's
actually interested as why.
the way their stomach and their anatomy is built. They
Uh-huh.
don't have the ability to vomit. So if it's a common condition, it's called colic, where a horse has to be hospitalized for, and they stick a tube from their nose down to the stomach, and they basically empty out and siphon out the stuff that builds up into the stomach.
Oh gosh.
But it
Okay.
is life threatening. Like horses, many horses have died because of colic,
Oh no.
and they couldn't vomit. And that's another story I have. Like, even though I work only with dogs and cats in vet school, you're required to have some rotations that are not what your emphasis is.
Uh-huh.
Um, and they were like, okay, it's your turn to siphon out the tube. And so, but there's kind of a trick to it. And then you gotta move fast because it's gonna come.
Oh
And I didn't move
no.
fast enough, so I got horse stomach juice all in my mouth.
Oh gosh, Jamie. So gross.
So again, that's why I joke that like it's kind of a dirty job sometimes. But then there are days where I just see the just puppies and kittens all day long. And
Yeah.
it's funny because like I've been doing this for 8 years and it never gets old. Like literally the staff members, we just pass the puppies around and we just
Oh, so sweet.
kiss it and then we take pictures of it and then we just
Oh.
look how cute it is, you know. So and I
So
always wonder,
fun.
are pediatricians like that? I'm like, they're probably tired of seeing all these baby things.
Right.
They don't go, oh, they're all so cute, you know,
Well,
but
they're probably, they're not like screaming at you either. Are they? Or do they like
usually not.
okay.
It varies, but yeah, most puppies are just really, happy and wagging
Yeah.
their tail, and then we're just giving them tons of treats because we just want them to be happy. So,
Yeah.
so yeah, there are dirty parts of the job, but what's really cool is if you're like, oh, I don't know if I could ever do surgery. Well, then you don't have to. No
Mm,
one, you can do whatever you want. You can do whatever you want,
that's
and that is
awesome.
what's really cool. Is that whatever you're comfortable with is what you could do more of.
Yeah, yeah, that's
Mhm.
really cool. Well, I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but I just kind of round out our conversation, Jamie. I guess you kind of already mentioned it, but what is for you like the best part of the job?
Oh man,
You've mentioned a few things throughout, but if you could pick
I
one.
medically, I love surgery. Um, I love being able to fix pets and see the result.
Mm,
It's that gratification. Um, but this is an interesting one. One of my favorite parts of my job is actually the people, which is interesting. Some vets say they want to go to vet school because they don't like people, but
mm,
this is absolutely a people job because you're
mm.
talking to pet owners all the time, and
Yeah.
you really get kind of this bond and this closeness with people. And I think they kind of open up to veterinarians because they think we have like we're compassionate and we just have a
Yeah,
whole because
because
we
you
love
love
animals. You listen to me,
animals.
yeah. So it's just really cool to see the relationships that I get to build with people. And pets to them can mean anything. It can be anything from it's just an outside backyard dog. I don't really care
Mm,
much about it. Or it's like this was me and my husband's dog that we got together and he passed away last year and this is the last thing remaining of him and you have to keep him alive because this
mm.
is the only thing left of my husband.
Oh my
Like,
gosh.
and so you build this just closeness and this it's like a family. And it's kind of crazy to say that there are actually regulars. It's like I feel bad, but there are some pets that are regulars. They come in pretty often because they get sick a lot or they have chronic illnesses or something like that. And it's just really cool to um, see the puppy grow or the cat grow, to see um, the owner, just we get a picture of the owner's life. This one dog, the owner was like, has an autistic son and said he didn't sleep through the night for the first 12 years of his life. Like he would never sleep.
Mm.
He's autistic. And they said they tried everything they could possibly think of. And then they got a dog and the dog started sleeping next to him. And from the first day they got the dog has been, her son has been sleeping through the night.
Oh my
It's
gosh.
just really cool to hear stories like that.
Yeah.
Um, owner going through cancer and chemo and just us just being there for them. And so I actually love the people aspect of it. I love
Mm.
seeing them and saying, "How are you? How's your family doing?" And it's something that was unexpected, but I love people. I'm an extrovert, so maybe that's part of it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, and then sometimes just in the back, just people in our profession, the staff members, we just crack jokes and we try to we have to take lighthearted some things. Otherwise, I think we would get too exhausted and burned out. And so we have
Mm.
to find humor in different ways. Um, and it can be kind of gross and funny, we're laughing about poop and whatever it is, um, that I was talking about that big today. I did a 3-hour surgery and I removed a lump the size of my head and
Yeah.
everyone's like, "Ooh, can you cut it open? Can you cut it open?" Like,
Oh.
like, it's just like, so, so I've really loved many different aspects, but I think the people that I get to influence, the
Mm.
people that I get to be surrounded by, you know, I think a lot of people in our industry have big hearts because what I'll say is we don't do it for the money. Definitely
Mm.
not. Unfortunately, sometimes people in our industry are usually underpaid compared to most professions. but we do what we do because we love it. And
Yeah,
that's just the honest truth.
that's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
That's really amazing. Jamie, I know I said this was like going to be the end of our conversation, but I forgot to ask you about something, and I don't want to miss my opportunity to. And um
Sure.
yeah, like so you mentioned that you're a floater currently, but
Yeah.
it's also the reason for that, as you said to me before we started recording, is because you're about to start your own practice.
Yes.
Right? Yeah,
I'm
it's like a
very-
really big deal. I'm like super excited and pumped for you. You've been doing this for 8 years and you're opening your own practice. Congratulations. Like
Thank
I
you.
can't
Thank
even
you.
imagine what that's like. But um what I wanted to ask you about is like, so did that you just like one day you're like, oh, I'm gonna open a practice, or is there things that need to happen before you decide to do that?
Well, kind of going back real quick, before I wanted to be a vet, I actually always wanted to be a business owner. My
Okay.
mom was a business owner, and I just always want to be like, I want to be an entrepreneur, but I didn't know what I want to do. Fast forward, I go to vet school, I graduate, then I start working, I get married, I have kids, and I'm like, I was like, and that dream of opening a business kind of died because I was enjoying my family and work life balance is important. But then I transitioned out of working at a practice, private practice, as an associate, and I really thought like, what do I want to do? And I thought to myself, I I want to run run a practice the way I want to run it because I have a certain philosophy. I care about people. I don't think it should be about money. I think education is important. I love teaching. I love training the staff. I love educating clients. As
Wow.
people like joke, like I take forever for exam rooms because I'll sit there and just talk to you for like 30 minutes, just like talking about everything. It's just I'm very passionate about that.
Mm.
Um, so I was just sitting there thinking, what should I do? And my husband Eric was like, "You should just open a practice." I go, "Really? I don't know. I mean, it's a lot of work." He's like, "I'll support you." And literally, like, we're like, "Okay." And so then we started looking for a practice to either buy or to start our own. I soon realized I wanted to start my own practice from the ground up.
Mm.
So it's been about like 2 years in the works, and we hopefully will be open like July of 2021.
That is so exciting. I'm like, even hearing you talk about it, I'm like, yes, like, when can I go?
Yes. It's fun stuff too. It's like thinking about like, what am I going to call man, so many decisions. What am I going to call the practice?
Yeah, yeah. I
Um,
mean, don't tell if you don't want to reveal it,
yeah,
but do
I'm
you have
happy to.
anything in mind yet?
So the practice will be called Peach Paws Animal Hospital.
Peach paws. I love it. That's
Yeah,
so cute. Okay, I love
we're in the
it.
middle of designing the logo. So we're like literally in the middle of it. And this is really exciting because, there's going to be a lot of things I'm figuring out, but, I love practicing medicine, but I also love the business aspect of it and
Cool, yeah.
really serving the community that I live in. I live in
Mm.
Peachtree Corners, and I just want to serve the community that I live in. And this is my gift, this is my talent. And I feel like this is how I can serve my community. Like I want to be a part of Peachtree Corners. And to me, this is a need and this is how I can help.
I mean, I
So
just feel like that is such a unique way to be able to impact the community that you live in. But not only is it unique, it's extremely impactful. Like you truly will be meeting people that are your neighbors and
yes.
helping them. You know what I mean? Like that's really cool.
I
That's
mean, my
something that I
hope,
can't do, in that
yeah,
capacity, and that's really amazing.
yeah.
Were you gonna say something?
Well, it's just, my hope one day is like I have all these dreams that I'm still figuring out is like, maybe even having like high school interns who want to just like are interested in maybe becoming a vet. They just want to shadow, they want to learn. Like I I want to partner with different organizations in the city of Preacher Corners to say how can I help and not, and help and educate because educating people are really something I really care about. And so
Mm,
it kind of excites me to think like because I think especially as Asian American and a woman, I did not get any mentorship growing up really.
mhm.
And so I want to be there to mentor people, to be there for people. And especially you don't see a lot of Asian veterinarians.
No.
You definitely don't see Asian veterinarians that own practices.
Mhm.
You don't see a lot of, and a lot of practice owners, veterinary practice owners, are men, even though
Mm,
there's more female veterinarians.
yeah.
And part of that theory is because a lot more men got more mentorship. So even if it's like wanting to own a business one day, like these are the things that I want to help kind of help people with, because
Amazing.
you know I didn't get that, and it's something that I feel like could have really helped the next generation. So I'm excited to, I don't know what it would look like, but be like, hey, like if you have a program where you want them to do like some kind of work study, or they want to learn about being a vet, then like bring them over.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, for me, I mean, I think I've only shared this once on the podcast, but, like, I think that's kind of my dream in the same kind of chord as you, as, like, I'm talking to all these people who have put in the work, right? And have gotten a lay of the land in whatever job or career that they're in, and, there are people listening and people reaching out, that are like, "Hey, like, so I never knew this existed. Can you tell me more? Can you connect me with this person that you interviewed?" And so, like, for me, even hearing hearing you say that, I'm like, you guys, if you want to be a veterinarian, don't miss your
Yeah.
chance, you
And
know?
I mean, I'm happy to, like, if someone wants to reach out to me, if they're like considering going to vet school and they just want to know what it entails. I was really fortunate to have a really good college advisor that really helped me through the process.
Mm,
I'd be happy to help someone just, what do you need to do to even get into vet school, and I feel like we just scratched the surface.
yeah, yeah.
Or if they just want to know, if they want to potentially shadow me, or just learn more about my day to day, like you asked. I would love to. I love to share. I don't have like a business website up yet, but I do have a personal website, drjamiecho.com. Pretty straightforward. And so if someone wants to reach out to me to just for potential opportunities, or if they just want to learn more about veterinary medicine or going to vet school and all that, then I would love to help someone connect
Yeah,
them.
that's amazing. You guys heard it here. Please don't feel free to reach out. If you can't reach Jamie, I'll connect you, and yeah, we'll definitely get something set up for you guys if this is something that you're interested in. Uh sorry. Last question. Just last,
No,
I'm
no,
so
no.
sorry. Um you know, your life is very full in what you do in your career. This now my last question is, as a mom myself, and for women that are listening and maybe are considering family life plus a career,
Mhm.
I'm curious, like, you said to set boundaries, but like, realistically, how has this balance been for you? Like, how is it to be
Mhm.
a full-time working mom, and you have two little ones under the age of 4, which is a is a career in itself, in my opinion. But yeah, like, could you speak on that just a little bit, like what the
Yeah.
struggle, maybe some struggles or challenges, and how you were able to navigate through them?
Yes. I think it it may not be for everyone. Like some people, they may go into vet school, be a veterinarian, then have a family and decide like they need to cut back, because it's too hard. And then the nice thing is you can work as much as you want. You can work one day a
Mm,
week, 2 days a week, full time. For me, and if maybe there's some people out there that can relate to me in this way, is I am a happier mom and I'm a better mom because I get to work and I get to do something I enjoy. So I feel very fortunate that I get to actually do something that I love,
mm,
and I'm not necessarily just doing it for the money.
mm-hmm,
Um, but I do set those boundaries, like uh, finding hobbies outside of veterinary medicine, trying not to bring work home.
mm,
And and I'm guilty of this, a lot of veterinarians are guilty of this, is sometimes we do too much. Um, and there have been nights I've lost sleep over a pet, just thinking about them. That's
mm,
that's sometimes the tough part of the job, but it is setting those boundaries and not giving out your personal number to all these clients. And I have done it sometimes, and most of the time people are pretty respectful and knowing like, okay, because I care. So like sometimes I'll call a client on my way home from work because
mm,
I just want to check on that one pet and I just want to make sure they're doing okay.
mm,
Um, and so, but what's interesting is the boundaries, I don't think is necessarily with clients. The boundaries are more with your job and your employer,
mm,
because a lot of people like me in the PR industry, maybe this is me being Asian American too. I'm kind of passive, and I'm a people pleaser and I just want to say yes, yes, yes to everything. It's just learning to say no.
I see.
Um, if you're given PTO and vacation time, use it. I used every day. um, when I got pregnant, I enjoyed working through my pregnancy, but I knew I was going to take my 8 weeks off and I wanted my 8 weeks off and I took it.
Mm.
And coming back to work was a little hard, but once I got back into the routine of it, I loved it. But it literally was like, I'm still pumping at work. I'm like, okay, guys, I'll be right back. I'm going to go pump. So there is a little bit of a juggling. But for me, I'm not afraid to say no at the end of the day when I'm ready to leave. When a dog comes in 1 minute before closing and says, my dog has been vomiting for the last 4 days. Like, can you please see my dog? I go, I'm really sorry, but we're closing in 1 minute. We can't. Like, there's an emergency hospital I can send you to. And not feeling guilty, like, because that was what was best for the pet.
Right.
And this is what's best for me, is to go home to my family.
Yeah.
So I think that's how I've been able to kind of manage it, is setting those boundaries. And if I felt like those boundaries weren't being respected, it's walking away from that situation.
Yeah.
Which is basically what happened where I was for 6 years. It wasn't a healthy environment, and I could sense that my emotional health was deteriorating, and that relationship was severed, and it was for the best. So,
yeah.
But a lot of people in my industry are like, they're so unhappy, but they don't do anything about it. And I'm just saying, like, people almost like they don't think they can get better. And I'm like, you are so worth it. You just need to move on.
Yeah.
Not owning a business and being a mom I kind of joke. People kind of ask me, are you going to have a third kid? I go, I think my business is my third kid. Like, I don't know if I can have a third kid. I mean, because like I have a business to run, but I feel very fortunate because I can't take all the credit. It's really my husband. He's a great dad. I come home, he puts the kids to, we have like this great system, like, and it's communication. He puts my oldest to bed, and then I put my youngest to bed. My mom watches the kids full time. So I think if it wasn't for the support of family, I don't know if I could do this myself. There's just no way.
Yeah, it's so great. It really, truly, truly takes a village to do all the things and make sure that everyone is mentally healthy as well, Well, Jaime, again, thank you so much for your time today, you busy, crazy woman,
No.
in all the best ways possible. I really appreciate your transparency with me today. And for those of you listening, if you are interested in being a veterinarian or even just learning more about the career itself, you heard it right here. Jaime said it herself. She's totally willing to connect with you. So feel free to DM me through social media, or you can email me at podcastwigu@gmail.com. Thanks again, Jaime. See you. Until next time.
Bye.